the higher ranges of life, where personality has fullest play and is most nearly free from the tyranny of circumstance, are precisely those where it depends least on possessions. The higher we ascend among human types, and the more intense personalities become, the more the importance of possessions dwindles, says the philosophy of voluntary simplicity. Voluntary simplicity of living has been advocated and practiced by the founders of most of the great religions: Buddha, Lao Tse, Moses, and Mohammed. It has been followed also by many saints and wise men, such as Saint Francis, John Woolman, the Hindu rishis, the Hebrew prophets, and by many artists, scientists, and great modern leaders, as Gandhi and Mandela, which have had great and prolonged influence on the world. Simplicity has always been one of the testimonies of the Mennonites. But the vast quantities of things given to us by modern mass production and commerce, the developments of science, and the complexities of existence in modern industrialized countries have raised widespread doubts as to the validity of voluntary simplicity practice and principle. Today, our present mental climate is not favorable either to a clear understanding of the value of simplicity or to its practice. Somehow, simplicity seems to be a foible of saints and occasional geniuses, but not something for the rest of us. What we mean by voluntary simplicity is not so austere and rigid. Voluntary simplicity means singleness of purpose, sincerity and honesty within, as well as avoidance of exterior clutter or of many possessions irrelevant to our chief purpose of life. Voluntary simplicity means an ordering and guiding of our energy and desires, a partial restraint in some directions in order to secure greater abundance of life in other directions. Simplicity involves a deliberate organization of life for a purpose. Take example of the man who tried to climb Mount Everest, concentrated his thoughts and energies on the planning of that expedition for several years, and in the actual attempt discarded every ounce of equipment not surely needed for that one purpose. However, as different people have different purposes in life, what is relevant to the purpose of one person might not be relevant to the purpose of another. Yet it is easy to see that our individual lives and community life would be much changed if everyone simplified and organized his purposes so that one purpose would easily dominate all the others. Now, modern science and inventions have made possible a boundless supply of goods and foods of all sorts that the ages of scarcity and assumptions, thinking, and morality based thereon are outmoded, including the idea of there being any value in simplicity. However, philosophy of voluntary simplicity tells, great advances in science and technology have not solved the problems of civilization. Actually, modern advancement have altered the form of problems and made much more difficult of solution. In Volume 3 of Arnold J. Toynbee's Great Study of History, he discusses the growth of civilizations. Toynbee considers what constitutes growth of civilization, including in that term growth in wisdom as well as in stature. With immense learning, Toynbee traces the developments of many civilizations, including Egyptian, Hellenic, Indic, Chinese, Japanese, etc. After spreading out the evidence, he comes to the conclusion that real growth of a civilization does not consist of increasing command over the material environment, nor of increasing command over the human environment, but that it lies in what he calls etherealization, a development of intangible relationships. Arnold J. Toynbee points out that this process involves both a simplification of the apparatus of life and also a transfer of interest and energy from material things to a higher sphere. He follows Bergson in equating complexity with matter and simplicity with life. If this be so, it is time to call a halt on endless gadgeteering. Voluntary Simplicity says, we better turn our attention to cultivating qualitative relationships and the ways of life which promote them. Our technology is overdeveloped. It rests on a moral foundation which had developed in a simpler world and was intended for simpler conditions. Today, our civilization is like a huge engine, resting on too small and weak a foundation. Its vibrations are tearing the whole thing to pieces, and in order to carry the load and strain, we need to develop stronger self-control and morality. We think that our machinery and technology will save us time and give us more leisure, but really they make life more crowded and hurried. The motor car has the same effect upon our domestic life. We are all covering much bigger territory than formerly, but the expected access of leisure is conspicuous by its absence. Today, where the motor cars are very numerous, as on Fifth Avenue, New York, you can now, at many times during the day, walk faster than you can go in a taxi or bus. Clearly, the mechanized countries are not the countries noted for their leisure. Any traveler to the eastern countries can testify that the tempo of life there is far more leisurely than it is in the industrialized West. Needless to say, to a lesser degree, the place to find relative leisure in the United States is not in the highly mechanized cities, but in the country. Moreover, we continually overlook the fact that our obsession with modern machines spoils our inner poise and sense of values, without which the time spared from necessitous toil ceases to be leisure and becomes time without meaning. Thus, philosophy of voluntary simplicity says, the way to master the increasing complexity of life is not through more complexity, but through simpler living. We must understand as an aid to modern fast-paced living and as a corrective to our feverish over-mechanization, simplicity is not outmoded but greatly needed in modern times. Voluntary simplicity says there are certain elemental human needs which have to be met: food, clothing, and shelter. These vary according to climate, custom, and development of civilization, yet in any one place, certain minima of these must be met if life is to exist at all. And if life is to be vigorous, there must be a margin above the minima, so as to provide physiological reserves for endurance, sudden emergencies, and to provide mental and moral reserves for the work of adaptation to changes and making progress in civilization. However, simplicities must not infringe upon the minimal needs of individuals or upon even the wise surplus margins above those minima. But inasmuch as the desires of mankind are boundless, and we all tend to rationalize our desires, there is endless dispute as to how wide the surplus margin should be in order to be wise. A study by Professor E. L. Thorndike of Columbia University indicates that the actual American expenditures for food, clothing, and housing are considerably larger than the actual necessities to sustain life. The fact that we spend annually $600 billion for cosmetics and beauty parlors spent more than $200 billion for candy and chewing gum, and $700 billion for cigars, cigarettes, and tobacco. Thorndike says, less than 1/3 of what we spent went for wants which must be satisfied to keep the human species alive and self-perpetuating, and the rest went chiefly to keep us amused, physically and socially. Similarly, in regard to expenditures for clothing, Thorndike believed that nearly half the total was for reasons other than mere bodily protection. The approval of others, pleasure of vision, and other elements are strong causes of expenditure for clothes. In view of all this, it is clear that in our expenditures of money, while elemental necessities must be met, nevertheless there is above that line a wide realm for the application of the principle of voluntary simplicity. Possession is in use only, which for each man is sternly limited, so that such things and so much of them as he can use are indeed well for him, and more of them or any other things are ill for him. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more empowering content. Thanks for watching.